All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Auto Dealer Live. We have a couple of great guests on today. We have U.S. Marine, the owner of Sutherland Nissan of Orlando, and then Paul Sansone Jr., owner of Sansone Jr. 66 Auto Mall. Mikey, it's going to be a great show today.
It is. I'm looking forward to it. Let's jump right into it.
All right, guys, we are on with U.S. Marine and Paul Sansone Jr. And first of all, I want to just say congratulations to a friend of mine, somebody I've known for a long, long time. And U.S. Marine, congratulations. I know in the last few months you have gone from managing partner to owner, outright owner of Sutherland Nissan of Orlando. And congratulations, man, on that. That's an incredible feat there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, my business partner passed away, and I was able to buy his son out. His son inherited the store, son and daughter, and I made the move to buy him out, and it worked out well, and I'm happy to be owner of my own store now.
That's pretty cool, man. That's awesome stuff, man. Well, I want to kind of jump to you first, man. We'll throw this to you. You know, a lot is going on, obviously, in this industry right now, and I want to ask you about managing the challenge of dealing with customers, because coming out of, you know, this last couple of years, one of the things that we have talked to a lot of stores about just in the day-to-day on the phone with dealers, but we haven't brought it up on the show yet, is, you know, some of the low credit scores, some of the issues that customers have kind of come out of through the challenge of COVID and just, you know, the challenge of the last couple of years. What are you finding, you know, and how are you managing the challenge of dealing with customers with maybe lower credit scores and helping them get approved? And can you share maybe a couple of specific strategies that you use today to overcome some of these issues in your store?
Well, you know, interest rates have gone up, and you know, the customer's credit, debit has gone up. So we're seeing a lot of people that have a lot of late pays and stuff on their credit. But we just partnered with Fierce Credit Repair, and that's helping us out. We are helping customers to clean up their credit a little bit and hopefully get them approved for a little bit better interest rate than they would be able to get approved with their current credit scores. So
yeah,
it's worked out pretty good for us. And but yeah, definitely seeing a lot more lower credit scores than we have in the past.
Well,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we've been hearing too. Now, I want to go to Paul as well, but before we do, would you mind just to kind of elaborate a little bit, maybe talk about like what, in in a little bit more detail, what's your experience been with that, and you know, how has it impacted your ability to sell cars? I mean, has that been something that has really helped move the needle for you in some capacity, or help reach more people in your market? I mean, what's that look like?
Well, I mean, it's definitely helped us get customers approved, you know, and it's something that we're offering for our customers. So it makes us look good that we're trying to help our customers get their scores up and get approved for a better interest rate. And normally it's like a 60 to 90 day turnaround as far as, you know, getting their scores up and helping them get a better interest rate. But it's worked out good for us, and it makes us look good to our customers that we're trying to help them through.
Well, I know too, US, and just before we go to Paul on the same subject, I know that Nissan, I've heard from a lot of my Nissan guys that Nissan's been one of the OEMs that have kind of stepped up in this realm as well. You know, they've done things a little bit differently than some of the manufacturers out there as well. Have you noticed, you know, in the last year, you know, just in general, Nissan trying to kind of separate themselves and do some things a little bit different? I've just heard that from a couple of the guys that we work with. What's your experience on that from their standpoint?
So Nissan has definitely stepped up. You know, they are approving deals that they had that they would have turned down in the past. And you know, when we're submitting a deal, we submit it to Nissan. We obviously submit it to some other banks too. Nissan's stepping up, and actually, we're getting phone calls from Nissan saying, "Hey, where did you send that deal? You know, what can we do to make to capture that business?" And so Nissan has definitely stepped up just in the past 6 months, and it's made a pretty big difference. So we are getting deals approved now that we would have gotten turned down in the past.
It's good. That's good. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well, and it's good to see that. It's because they're trying to. It looks like they're trying to gain some market share in that respect as well, and really kind of help not only help the dealers out and help customers, but obviously there's a play in it for Nissan as well. But so it's
and
good
filling
stuff.
some gaps with we've heard some stuff about some lenders, different things. I think that most lenders are coming back in reasonably well, but there's been people filling the gaps. Credit unions have filled the gaps, but now Nissan and some of these OEMs are helping to fill those gaps as well when it comes to making sure people can drive away with that car.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's really good.
Hey, Paul, going to you. I know that you have some creative things that you're doing with regards to this as well, not only as a dealer, but really on the vendor side of things as well. But it started as something, in your state, and talk a little bit about that and what you're doing to kind of get creative, because I think that this is, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the thought process with what US was talking about with the credit repair aspect, but you've kind of taken it to a different level, and I think it's pretty unique.
Well, thank you. I've actually been aware of credit improvement, credit education for over 10 years now. And the concept of somebody, walking into my store with a low credit score and hypothetically 30, 60, 90 days down the road, being able to have an improved was something that was appealing to me. I actually created a rent-to-own business model over 10 years ago. For various reasons, it has evolved into a lease here, pay here operation. So I will, at the end of December, be on my third year of my own lease here, pay here operation. It's an internal leasing department handling subprime credit. And where the credit improvement comes in is part of our process is there's a credit education coach that comes with the lease, and our customers are able to build equity rather quickly and build their credit score. Actually, our average customer's credit score goes up 160 points. So we're able to 12 to 24 months be able to bring a subprime customer back, either give them the option of refinancing the current vehicle that they have or pick something nicer, newer, depending on the situation. And by the end of this year, I'll probably have done, as I said, 900 subprime leases and generated over $5-6 million net I'm talking about collectively at my different dealerships. But it's a very cool process because it acts as if it's a department within the dealership, not a separate lot like buy here, pay here operations are. So I've integrated it very well into the retail, my retail infrastructure.
Now here's a question though. So if a dealer's listening to this and they're saying, wow, that sounds really interesting, but if they're thinking, I wonder, what are some of the risks involved with something like this? I mean, do I have to have certain level of cash reserves? I mean, maybe talk a little bit about that side of things if somebody's a little curious, but they're not, like what does that look like in terms of risks involved? I mean, what's your experience been overall with that?
Well, first off, you are doing subprime lending, so there is risk, and you have to realize you're putting your money out on the street now. Saying that, as a dealer, I've built in all the protections for myself of selecting good people with low credit scores. That's where it starts versus bad credit customers. Technology, we have a technology that goes along with it. We're probably going to collect almost $400,000 of payments this month, and 98% of it's done through smartphone electronics. The vehicles are tracked. We know where they are. Vehicles are protected with maintenance, gap insurance, etc. So I have built all the protections for myself. Remember, I'm a retail dealer that created this for me with my money at risk.
Yeah.
Now, a dealer doesn't need to have all the capital cash, while some dealers are rather flush with cash right now, but you don't need to have the cash. There are options and alternatives that we have available to dealers to allow them to fund this while they build out their own leasing company.
That's pretty strong. Shifting, and we'll go back to that in a second, because what I really look at this as US is in general is just really how a dealer, and we talked about this slide a couple of weeks ago with a couple of our guests on briefly, but today's episode is more about it and really looking at what can we do to build some other profit sources in, over this last couple of years? If it's taught us anything, right, it's taught us that we're a resilient industry, but at the same time, it taught us, I think, that we can adapt. There's things that we weren't doing that we started doing that are forever probably be part of dealerships, even though we're back to selling cars. We've kind of taken some of these practices with us. So we've really kind of increased the ability to implement profits. I know your dealership, you look at this as a long-term approach. I mean, you're the owner now. And so your perspective has always been, I think, on profits. How can I, coming from the John Marazzi, you guys are both from that same school of thought where how can I, increase profits all the way around the store, not only in sales. And so looking at that, your dealership success and aligning profits as your business model, can you share some of the other strategies, some of the other areas, whether they're traditional or whether maybe out of the box, that you've kind of added some, profit structures in areas where you're able as a dealer to increase your bottom line? Because I know you're super creative on a lot of things that, some dealers might not even be thinking about or focusing on.
Yeah.
So a lot of my focus right now is just training my salespeople to be the best that they can. They came off 2 really, really easy years where, it was like shooting fish in a barrel, selling cars and making great profits. And so right now, things are a little bit harder. It's, we came off 2 incredible years and right now. So I'm really focused on training my salespeople right now on how to sell cars again.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning, 9 a.m., they're all in the office and we're doing, serious training. We're doing walk-arounds. We're trying to make them the best that they can so they can sell cars better than the guy down the street. So, most of my focus right now is on making my salespeople the best that they can be.
Sure.
And,
there's
growing my profits through that right now.
It's interesting because I want to, we'll go back to Paul in a sec, but that is, somebody might have expected maybe just a different answer, but man, I'm so with you on that because I think that's an area, I think before COVID, we struggled with that as an industry where, training was so important, but now it's a retraining. It's going and saying, hey, look, we're not just taking orders anymore, right? We're not, as you said, shooting fish in a barrel. We have to we'll go back to selling cars again. And I think that's, I think that's wisdom, and I think it's smart and focusing on that front end. And I've heard that probably more than anything else, Mikey.
Yeah, several episodes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, from just the hundreds of dealers that we speak to on a daily basis, that's what we've heard.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because there's so many things that have changed, but that's the one constant. People have to be able to sell the car when the people come in. We can talk all the time about the strategies and how to get them in and who to target and where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, if that's something that was lost, it's got to be the number one thing to retrain and regain, because if not, everything it's gonna be like I don't know, football team sort of breaking down right at the end zone, right? You do everything up until the last part, but if you don't score, it doesn't really matter. So yeah. It's a great point.
Let's go back to Paul. Paul, man, jump in here. What do you think? I mean, I know that you've got a lot going on with your lease here, pay here, but talk a little bit about what US said, even from retraining salespeople as well. Have you had to do some of that?
Oh, well, first off, I want to, I think US was at the same Nissan dealer show I was at.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have to give, now I got the guy blowing leaves outside my door. I don't know if you could hear that, but anyway, I have to give Nissan a little bit of an attaboy, because their meeting was really about experiential selling. Very tough word, but focusing on the customer experience. And that is something that, I believe in wholeheartedly. That goes to sales staff, retention. My whole thing is, if my handshake is better than your handshake, I'm going to win more times than not. It goes to making the BDC be a relevant part, not a separate part of the dealership, be part of the dealership where, these are meetings that we've just recently had, that it's one dealership, one conversation. How do you make yourself stand out with a virtual interaction with a customer? That is something we really focus on because most people aren't doing lot walks anymore. They're doing internet engagements, that type of thing. So how do you make yourself be the person that they're going to connect with? And we talked about videos on the cars they're interested in. We're talking about making sure, when they come in for that car, that's the car that's up front and center. So we focus very much on the customer experience. I know that sounds like BS, but it's really true. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
but the fact is, right now, you used to be able to say, here, I want a red one, I have a white one, take it and take it 5,000 or less. I mean, that's not the case anymore. Now your product selling, it's your personality, it's your level of negotiations. I raised this conversation before. I don't know if US, you guys give out numbers out of your BDC. Do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
most dealers do. I actually put my son, who is one of my best GSMs, in my BDC, actually monitoring the quotes, actually doing the quotes, desking deals out of the BDC, because most BDC managers have not been trained onto how to desk a deal. They're trained on how to sell an appointment, how to sell the car.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the level of commitment you need to that lead source to make that work.
Interesting. So do you think that experiential, I know you both mentioned Nissan's pushing that. Do you think that experiential approach, and really, which I know that's been pushed for a while, but especially now, David was talking earlier about profitability, and obviously that's always a huge part of it. Do you think that those two things go hand in hand, where, a lot of times, you hear the discussions about compressed margins and what have you. Do you think that a way of maybe avoiding becoming commoditized, where, you're the same guy down the street and there's nothing different, you all have the same vehicles, a way of avoiding that is this sort of experiential approach? Do you think that's why they're pushing it so much? Have either of you, maybe, go back to Paul and then US, have either of you seen that really impact your bottom line and notice a difference when you've done some of these different things, like you mentioned, sending numbers via the BDC, streamlining that process?
So yeah, I mean, definitely the experience, a lot of manufacturers are pushing this buy at home now. And, I believe that buy at home is probably going to be the future. Originally I was trying to avoid that, trying to get the customers in the dealership, to structure and put the deal together here and try not to give out numbers over the phone or over the internet. But I believe that that's the future. And I think it's, it's inevitable. If we don't get on board, we're going to lose business to other dealers that are getting on board. So we are trying to, my new motto is, let me show you how easy it is to buy a car at Settle and Nissan. So we are doing a lot of deals over the internet. We're even doing home deliveries, which I'd much rather get the customer in here and sit in my business office in front of my finance manager and, try to sell product. And ultimately, we are still trying to get the customer in here. But if they're that customer that wants to buy a car without coming to the dealership, we're delivering the car. As a matter of fact, I just delivered 2 cars yesterday, 2 customers in their homes, and they never stepped foot in the dealership. But
Paul,
I'd still like to get the customer in here if possible, at least for the delivery part. But in the past 2 years, we weren't giving out prices in our BDC because, inventory was so low, and, we were just getting the customer in here. And if we couldn't get them in here, we can get the next customer in here to buy the limited amount of cars that we had. But, now that inventory's, filling back up, we are back to giving prices over the internet, trying to get the customer in here and show them an experience better than they're going to find at our competitors.
Paul, thanks, US. Paul, one thing, a statistic that we've been throwing out, we've been doing a lot of retargeting off of website, off of inventory, VDP pages with our marketing. And so getting into this in the last few months, like heavily, we've watched a statistic that looks like approximately 95% of a dealer's website traffic goes away. So I mean, they go to your website, they go to the VDP page even, or they go to your inventory page, and then they go off to the next dealer. And it's kind of like the phrase or the line from a few years, 20 years ago. Hey, the customer shops and then buys maybe from the second or third dealership. I think that's where the phrase "there's no be back" came from, right? That maybe 30% bought from the first dealership they visited, and 60% bought from either the second or third. That's moved over and even increased with the internet. And so, is that kind of what you're referring to when you say you're trying to do some things like maybe desk a deal out of the BDC? Are you trying to capture more of that 95% because you've recognized those customers will go away? Is that?
Well, if you think about it, most people think the way to buy a car is ask what's your best price or what's your price.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is most people that ask for a price really don't need the price to satisfy their shopping curiosity at the time. So meaning that, which trim level are you looking at, and getting into other qualifying questions. So I'm very focused on, like I said, if we're going to be giving out price, making sure that they're the right price out of the internet and that you're being relevant to what the customer is asking. I think that's what's going to capture more people. Well, we had a company actually do a survey of the internet leads we had, and actually almost 30% of them ended up buying a car in 120 days. Think about that. Most BDCs are happy getting 10, 12% of the internet leads. And they think that they think this lead isn't any good or that lead's not any good. Yeah. Almost 30% of all the people that shop us ended up buying a car in 120 days. That just added some validity to that. Virtual lead is a real customer, just like it was a customer that's sitting in front of you. We just have to come up with creative ways to control the selling process and create a personality virtually in a medium that doesn't really have personality, and that's online. So it's tough to create that first impression virtually, but that's what we're focusing hard on as far as the internet department, BDC.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
That's really good.
Well, we got some closing remarks here. We appreciate both of you guys being on, and so just looking at the car business as a whole, wrapping up the last quarter here, or getting into the last quarter of 2023, kind of coming out from the ether of what we've been in, right? Everybody just kind of the roller coaster, to be honest with you. And then ending last year, coming out of the ether of inventory shortages. Now, maybe 2024 US or be the first, regular full year, back. And, what do you see? Something you can maybe leave as a closing comment to the dealers listening of what your forecast, what do you see in 2024 in the auto business? And, maybe make a little prediction there that what you feel like is maybe the one thing that you can put your finger on that's coming.
So 2024, I think is going to be an interesting year. We're going to start to see those customers coming back in to want to trade in the cars that, we sold them during COVID. And so some of these customers are going to be upside down. I mean, we sold them cars for well over MSRP. We financed them out a year longer than we normally finance them out. We did more 84-month loans in the past 2 years than I've done in the previous 20 years, So I think we're going to see these customers coming back in, and, they're going to have some negative equity. So hopefully the manufacturers are going to start putting some incentives back out on cars now that inventory's filling up. And, we're going to have to find new ways to sell cars and get these people into new vehicles. So it's definitely going to be an interesting year. I'm praying that interest rates go down a little bit next year. So, they're the highest they've been in quite a long time right now. So, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm anxious to see how 2024 and 2025 play out. Getting these customers back in that we sold over the past couple of years.
Yeah, but it's good that you have that on the top of your mind, and I'm sure other dealers do too. But that's important. You can begin to plan and strategize about that and work out a way to overcome that, which, that's the cool thing, like we talked about earlier. I think the industry is very resilient, and I think we'll find a way to tackle that. But going to you, Paul, same thing, closing remarks, and then also just anything that you see, whether it's something in that same vein or something different. I know yours is different. You have some different models with your leasing program, so maybe and maybe you're also looking to target certain rare models that, those 2019, 2018 lower, more entry-level trim package vehicles maybe could become attractive. So, I mean, any type of strategies that you're looking at maybe in the next few months and in the coming year.
My strategy has been consistent. I try to go to where the where the money is. The subprime market's been there forever, since I'm 24 years old in the car business. Hasn't changed. High interest rates, low interest rates, it's there. I have a product that I've developed that I think serves that community well. Not only is it a win for my dealership, it's a win for the consumer. And when you have somebody that transitions from a subprime borrower to near prime or prime, it's a real exciting experience to see that customer and the joy in that. So as much as I love making money selling cars, I do like serving my community, and I feel I'm doing I feel I'm filling a void and obviously generating a revenue that we're losing from the natural flow of supply and demand. The other market is really the Hispanic market, the emerging Hispanic market. Not only does that, I have been very intentional about building an Hispanic friendly dealership. I have my own separate Hispanic website. My Hispanic salespeople, they have it made in the shade. They have their own marketing plans, their own networking. It is a very loyal segment of customers, as is the subprime community, but it's a very loyal segment of customers, a very profitable segment of customers. But you need to have the staff that speaks the language, understands the culture. Not 100% exclusively, but I am a very, very Hispanic friendly dealership, and it shows when you walk into my dealership. And I'm not in a I'm not in Miami, that is a very Hispanic market. For me and my dealership, as in many dealerships, it is an emerging market that I am going out of my way to make sure they know that I'm a welcoming place to do business.
US, that's just called market where you are. That's just the market, right? I mean, you're in Orlando, and we're in Tampa here, so we know that's just the market. But real quick, Paul, I know that I want to do this because I just know that it can help dealers as well. You're able to, with this leasing program too, and I know we didn't plan this, if a dealer wants to reach out to you, you can help them in their state as well, in their dealership, correct?
Yeah, it's Lease Here Pay Here is operational in all 50 states. Some states have tax advantages actually to Lease Here Pay Here versus a Buy Here Pay Here situation. Florida actually being one of them, because you have only pay taxes as you go. Pennsylvania being others. But if you don't mind me being self-serving, obviously you can reach out to myself, Paul Sansone Jr., but my company that we're distributing the business model through is called Dealer Controlled Leasing. So dealercontrolledleasing.com. You can just click through there, see what the product's all about, ask for a demo. And the fact is, I believe we can change the subprime lending landscape, and it's not as difficult as dealers would think to make it work. And it's a full technology training, ongoing support. So
I know some guys that are doing it. So I know
deal.
Yeah, so we put it up on the screen too. When you said that, it'll be up on the screen. So make sure you check that out, dealers. US, Paul, thank you both for coming on. Awesome stuff. I know we're going to get a lot of comments on this, and I appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedule to join us today. Okay, as promised, that show was fire. One of my favorite episodes so far, Mikey. Great show.
So good, so relevant too for everything that's going on right now, and two really talented guys who I think anyone who was listening would get a lot of good info from it and things they could implement, today.
Absolutely. Hey, we want to make sure you guys stay on top of every episode that we're dropping. So subscribe to our YouTube page, and then.
Listen, you got to subscribe, but you got to click the bell to make sure you. That's right. You got to be notified when we post new content. What's the point if you don't get the notification, right? Yeah. So you got to get it. Click the bell, subscribe, and
we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.